Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up, hey. 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 Way down in the back.
TA, we are live on game week.
Holy cow.
Game week, baby. Can't
Pretty wild.
wait, man.
Pretty wild.
Man, I can't wait. Thursday night, dude, there's a bunch of good games on. Thursday night, Arkansas is playing. Thursday night, Missouri is playing. Thursday night, North Carolina versus Minnesota is playing. There's some good games on Thursday night. Good games on Saturday. And, man, of course, the big one, the showdown in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, in Sin City, LSU Tigers versus the USC Trojans. I cannot wait. I absolutely love this time of year, the anticipation. It just doesn't get any better, man. The anticipation of college football just doesn't get any better. It builds and builds, and it's great when it finally gets here, man. I just stinking love it. And, man, holy crap, did we get a taste of it this weekend.
Yeah,
Man.
dude, that game was awesome.
God, that's what I needed, man. I inject all of that into my veins. I needed
Upset week one, game one of the season.
I just wish it could have been LSU that played Florida State when DJU was there.
Yeah, because, dude, that DJU's trash.
I loved it, but it just drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy. But I love it at the same time. In Dublin, Ireland, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets go out and upset the Florida State Seminoles.
Haynes King.
I love every minute of it. Love every single stinking minute of it. Man,
Not super surprised, because DJU sucks.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what Florida State was expecting.
I expected their defensive line to be a lot better than it was.
I expected their defense to be a lot better.
They got shoved around.
They did. They really did. Their defense was in my opinion, that was worse than what the offense. Like the offense, I don't think was expected to be that dynamic, like that amazing. I mean, you had a bunch of transfers come in. I mean, you had a transfer in DJU, transfer in Roydale Williams, transfer in the Indiana wide receiver. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But transfer. The reality of what they were doing was trying to supplement all that they lost, and clearly it's not what they expected. This is evidence of how you should use the portal more properly. You don't build a team on portal players alone. You use the portal to supplement. You use the portal to get what you need. You need to build off of your freshman classes. You need to build from your high school recruiting. So, but Zach, it was a great taste of college football. It was exactly what I needed on week 0 for Georgia Tech to go out there and knock off the Seminoles right off the bat. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely stinking loved it. And yeah, Haynes King kind of went off, Zach. He kind of, well, I wouldn't say went off, but like
he didn't really go off.
I mean,
but
he had a solid
Georgia
game.
Tech was gashing
Yeah.
Florida State's defense. Their run defense was pitiful.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Haynes King looked like he was going 2 miles an hour and making dudes miss and juking guys out while he looked like he was going 10 miles an hour. Like it was,
Yeah.
And then who was their running back? Oh, was it Isaac Haynes or
Jamal Haynes?
Jamal Haynes. Jamal
That was
Haynes.
one of
Jamal
them.
Haynes looked
Yeah.
really good. And then who was the kid? I don't know the name, so maybe somebody can help me in the chat. Number 3 for Georgia Tech. That dude on defense, that dude was flying all over the place there on defense. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, Reagan, I'd have to say that I think overall it was a really great start to the show, or excuse me, to the college football weekend here in week 0 with the Florida State Seminoles coming out on top over the Yellow Jackets. Guys, we're going to be right back in just a moment. He had to deal with something. But what a performance from the Yellow Jackets to knock down Florida State. And obviously, as an LSU fan, Reagan kind of mentioned it there, like you kind of feel like, gosh, I wish that could have been us the last 2 years, you know. But in the same sense, I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad to see them lose. I was glad to see them to see the Florida State Seminoles go down and be defeated in week 1, especially after LSU had lost the first game the last 2 years. So, you know, that was really good to see for me. And it was fun because, you know, obviously me and you were together. We were hanging out. We were hanging out with Bobby. You know, you get up early in the morning, watch College Game Day, get settled in, 11 o'clock rolls around, and we've got football.
Man, you love it. I love the aesthetic that college football brings. I love the anticipation, the build, and golly, when an upset like that happens, it's just awesome.
At the buzzer.
That was awesome. Yeah, at the buzzer, walk-off field goal.
A walk-off at the buzzer, game-winning field goal.
Yeah, and the guy had you know had missed the earlier field goal.
Yep.
And he totally redeems himself. What is that from?
That's from Dumb and Dumber.
You come back and totally
I thought
yourself.
You couldn't get any dumber. You totally redeemed yourself.
He did. He totally redeemed himself and won the game. Won the game for him. And man, all respect to kickers. I mean, just all due respect to kickers. That is so much harder than they make it look.
Yeah.
So much harder. I mean, literally, the game is not in your hands, it's in your foot. And that is incredibly hard.
The game is in your toes.
In your toes. So, man, that was a great taste. And we're going to get more. North Carolina, Minnesota this Thursday. Man, Georgia, Clemson in Atlanta Saturday. So some other big games that we'll get to watch before the LSU Tigers hit the field. Zach, but we'll get into things here with LSU. Enough about Florida State and Georgia Tech. Kind of an update for this week from Brian Kelly today. Had his first press conference of the season. His first game week press conference of the season. Sorry, Caleb. Yes, Florida and Miami as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
That will be a good one for sure. Let's hope it's not a repeat of Utah last year. Anyways, press conference from Brian Kelly. Just kidding, Caleb. I'm just messing with you. I am looking forward to it, and I can't stand Miami. I do hope Florida wins that game.
Oh, he's going to the game. Interesting.
Sick. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Jealous. Brian Kelly gives a little bit of an update on the Tigers going into this week. Probably the biggest thing of note is that Chris Hilton Jr. is questionable
Yep.
for the game against USC, and Miles Frazier is probable. I expect Miles Frazier to play. Chris Hilton, though, being questionable, obviously, we don't really know. And, man, Brian Kelly was very, very frank about where they stand with those guys in terms of who will come in. And we talked about him last week, man. Kyle Parker had a fantastic day in fall camp while Chris Hilton was taking a seat. He was phenomenal. I mean, had a touchdown catch, just had a solid day. And he's the guy. If Chris Hilton can't go, it will be Kyle Parker. Obviously, there will be multiple guys that will come in and play, but he's the next man up, essentially. And then, of course, as I think everybody knows, Tyree Adams is going to be the first lineman off of the bench. In case Miles Frazier can't go, it will be Tyree Adams. So those are – I mean, that is something of note to me, Zach, at least, because I feel like it's clear to them who their guys are. Like, and that's really good for me. There's not like ambiguity about, well, we don't really trust this guy, or we don't really know who's next, or blah, blah, blah. Whereas before, maybe with the offensive line even, there was a big question mark. Who comes in after our starting five? And man, it's nice to see. Okay, Tyree Adams, plug that guy in. Kyle Parker, we'll plug that guy in. That wasn't much of a problem at wide receiver, in the past, but certainly at offensive line, it was for a time. Sure. And it was like, okay, after year 5, who do you got? So I was really pleased to hear that. And there was something else, Zach, that I wanted to discuss that Brian Kelly was asked about and mentioned again. But I wanted to know what your thoughts were on things you've heard, anything that you liked and heard from Brian Kelly, and leading up in from today's press conference and leading into this weekend.
I mean, nothing significant. I mean, you already mentioned kind of the thing that stood out to me was that Chris Hilton is questionable, and I mean, obviously as a just a fan of football, and obviously as an LSU fan, like, it just sucks because you're like, man, it just seems like every time this guy is ready to get his chance, something happens. And here we are, beginning of the season, and Chris Hilton is dealing with an injury that's going to make him questionable for game 1.
Sure.
And obviously that is going to play a huge factor in this game, in my opinion, because, Chris Hilton is a guy that is a, take the top off, speedster type wide receiver. I mean, I know they've got other guys. We talk about Jelani Watkins before. They talk about his track speed. Obviously, Kyle Parker is quick in his own right, but Chris Hilton is going to be, your top dog when it comes to a guy that is taking the top off the defense. So, if you don't have him, obviously you've got, Kyron Lacy and CJ Daniels and Aaron Anderson, as you mentioned, Kyle Parker and Xavion Thomas and Shelton Sampson. And you got plenty of bodies there and plenty of really good, talented players that will supplement, him being gone. But, I'm hoping that hopefully within this next week, he can get to full health and be able to be 100% so that he can go for this game, because I'm sure he's itching to play.
Oh, there's no doubt. And he might get to play this Sunday, excuse me. Brian Kelly said he's only questionable right now because they haven't quite seen him get up and move around yet. Depending on how today went, his status may move to a probable. Of course, we don't have another press conference to hear from Brian Kelly about that, but obviously that could change. And he was questionable at the moment because, Brian Kelly made it clear that they just had not quite seen him this week yet. So they're obviously going to get a good feel today and really see where things were at with him, and they would go from there. Yeah. Man, the biggest golly. The biggest thing that Brian Kelly spoke of today, and again, I want to limit my expectations. I don't want to get my hopes high. But Brian Kelly seems very confident in this defense's ability. Very confident. We talked about last show. He made a comment about, well, there's really no more what the heck moments in the secondary and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, a reporter asked him, he didn't directly quote Brian Kelly, but he was referring to when Brian Kelly was talking about his defense and speaking highly of them. He was asking, you mentioned how this defense is clearly improved, how the secondary isn't having major blow-ups, and he just kind of wanted BK to really talk more about that and elaborate on that more. And Zach, BK doubled down on what he's been talking about with this defense and made it very clear that this defense loves to play for Blake Baker.
Yeah.
And that this defense has veteran guys in Greg Penn, in Harold Perkins, in Major Burns, in Sage Ryan, Jacoby and Gilroy. You got a guy like Jordan Gilbert. I mean, he didn't list all these guys off, but mentioned that they were veteran. It is a veteran group when you look at it. It is. Savion Jones. All of these veteran guys. Paris Shand, who played a lot of football, came from Arizona. Swinson, who played some football at Oregon. You've got lots of guys, Gio Paez, who are veteran players and have played a lot of stinking football. They've put together a staff that is enthusiastic, that has taught them great technique. And Zach, he just seems confident in this defense's ability to be much better. And that really speaks volumes to me. I was very pleased to hear him speak on the defense like the way he did again. He just made it clear that they're not going to be what they were last year.
Yeah.
They're not. And that just really, really pumps me up. Obviously, you got to go out onto the field. You got to prove it. You got to go out on the field and you got to prove it. But Brian Kelly was not making statements about the defense last year like he is right now, which obviously that whole year had not unfolded how horrible the defense was. It had not unfolded at that point, so the talking point wasn't quite there. But the reality is now that it is a talking point. The defense was horrible. Everybody wants to know, is it fixed? And Brian Kelly seems to indicate it's been fixed. And it may not be the greatest in the country, but he seems to be very confident that it's fixed from an effort standpoint and from just a basic standpoint. It is not going to be what in the world is happening anymore. Yeah. It's going to be very sound and solid defense.
At this point, the issues you're going to see are going to be based off of talent, personnel type issues.
Yeah.
Not having the guys that are talented enough to compete against the competition. I mean, you've got guys like you mentioned, a lot of them are experienced, but how talented are they?
Yeah.
Obviously, right now we have lacked talent in the secondary. You've got talent. You got some talent at the linebacker position, but you have lacked talent in the secondary and up front at the line of scrimmage with the defensive line. So if something is going to bite them in the rear, it seems like it's going to be a lack of depth on the defensive line and talent on the back end, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying those guys aren't talented. I'm saying compared to what we're used to seeing on the back end.
What LSU's used to having.
What LSU is used to having on the back end in the secondary, there's definitely a lack of talent, and it's been that way for the last couple of years. So that's where the issue lies with this defense. And hopefully, as Brian Kelly has alluded to, the other issues as far as scheme, miscommunication, misunderstanding of assignments, lack of effort because of a lack of energy and not wanting to play for the guy who's coaching them up. I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that is an issue no longer.
No. The one thing that everyone spoke about Blake Baker without question was that you say what you want, but players love to freaking play for Blake Baker. And all the players who played for him when he was here at LSU went to bat for him when LSU hired him.
Damone Clark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They talk about how caring he is for his players. He cares, but he also cares about being excellent. And there is a good mix of that together, it seems like, and they love to play for him. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled to see a defense that is going to be much more sound fundamentally, and just doing the things that they need to do to be just better in general. And the great thing is, with a guy like this and a staff like this, you can continue to recruit at a very high level, which they are. Bring in the talent, and dude, in a year, next year, 2 years, holy cow! If you can retain some of these coaches with some continuity, dude, this defense can be LSU defense, LSU standard of defense once again. So I'm very excited about the prospect of what is to come with Blake Baker. And I'm even excited about it this year. I'm not saying that this defense can't be really good, because the reality is they may have shored up all the bad, miscommunication, bad plays, bad blowups. And of course, there's going to be times when there's busted coverage. It's going to happen, but not on a routine, regular basis. This team can gel and get better as the season goes on and become a really solid, great defense. So I'm so looking forward to seeing this defense play on Sunday and see what Blake Baker, the work that Blake Baker and the staff has done with this defense. And it was just, Zach, it was super, super awesome to hear Brian Kelly really hammer home and double down and assure LSU fans that this defense is going to be much better. So, maybe there's some pressure there. There's certainly some pressure there to go out there and prove that. There really is. And boy, do they have a real test this Saturday, because Lincoln Riley is one of the best play callers in all of college football. Their offense will score points. So it's going to be tested right off the bat, Zach. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. But I also really like the things you pointed out there. So again, it's at a point where it's just a go out and prove it type thing. Because you can say all you want to from a podium, fans can say all they want to from what they believe, media can say all that they want to from what they see, but when the lights come on and it's game day and it's time, where the rubber meets the road, what's really going to happen.
Right.
And so, we're going to, that is what is to be seen. That is what is to be seen. When things get real and reality hits.
Yeah, no doubt.
You got to buckle up your chin straps, helmet to ball, and play football.
Yeah.
So while I am optimistic, Reagan, about this this defense and their potential to be better and be improved, you got to prove it to me.
Yep.
Got to
No
prove
doubt.
it to me.
No doubt. And we'll see this Sunday. Zach, another big announcement that we discussed right at the tail end of our show last Thursday. We gave our predictions for the number 18, and they also gave out new number 7 as well.
Yeah.
In fact, 18, we were spot on. We were spot on. Josh Williams, I think, is one of the clearest number 18s. Like, it was the most obvious choice. There was almost no question about it. My only thought about number 18 on the defense was that, to me, Greg Penn was the best option for number 18 on defense. But he had switched to number 3, so I was wondering if, in commemoration of Greg Brooks and support for Greg Brooks and his fight and his battle, if he would keep number 3. But number 18 has been awarded to Greg Penn as well. And Zach, I don't think you can really argue with him. I totally agree. The embodiment of what number 18 is all about, I think it's all about leadership. It's all about doing things right. It's all about a player who also makes a great impact on the game. And certainly these guys embody what number 18 is, the tradition of number 18. And so I'm excited to watch them wear number 18, Zach. It was spot on.
Yeah. And
absolutely. Come on, dog.
I mean, dude.
Come on, dog.
You can't go wrong, man. You cannot go wrong with the number 7.
I can't tell you how loud I'm going to scream Perk 7 on Sunday. The first time he does something, you're going to hear me say Perk 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super
pumped, loud.
I'm super pumped.
Gosh, I love it.
Yeah, I honestly did not predict it. I didn't. This is Perk's.
Yeah.
This is Perk's 3rd different number in the 3 years that he's been at LSU. Right? He had number 40 his freshman year. He had number 4 last year, and this year he goes to number 7. Yep. So that's pretty wild. But I am hoping that we see a number 7 type of year that we're used to. A type of year where we're reminded of Tyrann Mathieu, a type of year where we're reminded of Leonard Fournette, a type of year where we're reminded of DJ Chark, a type of year where we're reminded of Patrick Peterson, right? Because the last few years it just hasn't been great, right? I mean, obviously
Will Campbell.
Yes, Will Campbell, but I mean, to be honest, Reagan, when you think of number 7, bro, you're thinking of a straight up dog, a straight up playmaker. I'm not saying that Will Campbell is not a dog; he's not a playmaker, because he is. But when you think about number 7, you're thinking about a skill position guy, that you just rely on to make plays, right?
To change the game.
To change the game. And that's exactly what Patrick Peterson was. That's exactly what Leonard Fournette was. That's exactly what Tyrann Mathieu was. That's exactly what DJ Chark was. I mean, the list can go on and on and on of the guys, But you've had, in the recent past, a not so great go of things with number 7. I mean, you go back to, obviously last year you had Will Campbell. You go back to the year before, Kayshon Boutte didn't have a great season, and everything that happened with him just didn't really go that well. You go the year before that, and it was Derek Stingley who missed most of the season, and then ultimately opted out for his last season, what would have been his junior season. Year before that, it was going to be Jamar Chase, and then it opted out. So, and then you have to go all the way back to Grant Delpit in 2019. And so it has been 5 years. It has been 5 years since LSU has seen a number 7 that you're like, okay, all right, this is our dude. Yeah. This is our dog. And while I love Grant Delpit, and while I think Grant Delpit is a phenomenal player, Grant Grant Delpit wasn't, at the level that we've seen a Tyrann Mathieu, a Patrick Peterson, a Leonard Fournette. He was a solid, good player.
Yeah.
And yes, he made plays, but I'm just so ready to see a number 7 just
baby
go absolutely off.
Dude, it just is right. It just seems right.
Yeah.
That Harold Perkins gets number 7. It seems like he's poised for a 7 type of year. And I cannot freaking wait. It's going to be so awesome. I mean, all fall camp long, what you've heard from media, what you've heard from coaches is that Harold Perkins is going to be a disruptor. Harold Perkins is going to be a problem. Defenses are going to have to wonder where Perkins is all the time. And it's going to be really fun to see him flying around in number 7, Zach. That was a surprise.
That was really the only surprise.
That was a surprise. The 18s were easy.
The 18s were easy. You expected at least one of them. You got both.
Yep.
You did not expect a new number 7, and that was a pleasant surprise.
It was needed, man. And when I saw it, I can't lie, I was thrilled when I saw it.
For sure.
I was pumped. And the hype video that came out, dude, I don't know. There's something about that 7. Yes, that when Harold Perkins takes the – and you know what's going to be so awesome, Zach? You know what's going to be so stinking awesome? Is you're going to have Greg Penn and Harold Perkins, center of the defense, with 7 and 18. That's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
18 and 7 standing right next to each other in the middle of the defense. It's going to be really fun to watch. I'm excited about it. It really has me excited. So the numbers have been revealed. Super proud of those guys. I think they're well-deserved. And obviously the number 7 for Harold Perkins was a surprise. But now that it's out, it's like, that's where it should be.
Yeah.
So really excited about that.
It kind of makes you get a little bit more hype for the season.
It does, man. I cannot wait for LSU football, man. Golly, I can't wait. All right, Zach.
Hey, real quick, Reagan, before you move on.
Right.
This is the first time a linebacker has worn the number 7 since it really started with Ollie Highsmith.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it really started with Ollie Highsmith. That's when it really started.
Yeah.
And,
you are correct.
So this is the first linebacker to have the number 7 since it originated with Ollie Highsmith.
Yeah. You got to love it, man.
Yeah.
Got to freaking love it. I can't wait. All right, Zach. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hit some comments. We'll see you right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at OneNationDoty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue. I see Zach. I see Tyler's hopped in here as well. What's up, Tyler? Good to see you in here, man, as well. Appreciate you joining in. It's game week, baby. It's game week. And appreciate you, Caleb, as well, being in here and commenting. All right. Obviously, this past weekend, we gave you a little preview on 2 guys that would be committing that LSU was on the mix in. They were in the mix for. One of them we told you was pretty much solid LSU, Aiden Anding, and then Jonah Williams, the big fish that was going to be a baseball, football type of thing, and ultimately was going to be big-time NIL type of ordeal. And look, the Tigers went 1 for 2. And that's kind of what we expected. That was kind of the direction it felt like it was heading. LSU lands Anding, which is a great talent out of Ruston. If you keep up with Louisiana high school football at all, you know that last year Ruston and Zachary went head to head in the state title. And Anding and Trades Green had a great battle between the two of them. Obviously, Trades is with LSU now, and Anding is now a commit. Trades entering his freshman year, but it was really cool to watch Aiden Anding and Trades Green, man, battle out and go after it and get after it in the state title. Now are both heading to the Tigers. Obviously, one is already on the team, one is headed to the Tigers. It's a great pickup, Zach. It really is. I mean, he had big name schools, in the mix there. Anding looked like he was going to Texas until he got that LSU offer. And obviously Arkansas was in the mix there as well, but ultimately he picks the Tigers. As he said at his commitment, the best in the boot, stay in the boot. So, pretty excited about Aiden Anding. Zach, I'll let you share a little bit about Jonah. Obviously, he chose Texas, but
well, LSU takes one from Texas, and Texas takes one from LSU, right?
sure.
So,
Actually, LSU's taking two from Texas, but I digress.
yeah, well, you know what I mean. I'm talking about in this situation on Saturday.
Yes,
LSU steals one from Texas,
right.
As Aiden Anding was originally looked like he was headed there, and then Jonah Williams kind of originally looked like an LSU lean, but then obviously Texas pulls out all the stops to get the number one safety in the country, the 5-star, the dual sport athlete, Jonah Williams. And as you mentioned, Reagan, we kind of predicted that. It seemed like Texas was going to be the pick. Ultimately, that's what it ends up being. And, I'll say, when it was discussed, obviously there was a lot of people saying that it seems like, LSU recruited a lot more heavily on the baseball side of things, whereas Texas recruited a lot more heavily on the football side of things. And so, tough pick. But from what we know, it was, a very difficult situation for Jonah Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, he was completely torn about the situation, completely torn about the pick. Ultimately goes with Texas. That doesn't mean you're done. That doesn't mean you're done with Jonah Williams.
Right.
You still continue to recruit him. We've got a lot of time, and we've got a whole season, right? Before all is said and done with this signing class, with this 2025 recruiting class. So, just because a player commits doesn't mean that it's all said and done. I mean, we talked about Decorian Moore, right? 5-star wide receiver. LSU fans were super, super pumped, right? And super happy whenever they got the number one wide receiver in the country, 5-star Decorian Moore. What ultimately happens, he ends up decommitting. He goes to Oregon, right? And he's currently committed to Oregon. So he's another one. He's another one that you continue to recruit no matter what, right?
That's right. That's right.
With both of them, you obviously want to continue to keep recruiting, but you have to also recognize, that it's not over yet. As a fan, you have to recognize that it's not over yet. They're going to continue to recruit them. They're going to continue to, do what they can as far as NIL is concerned to draw him closer to Baton Rouge. Will that happen? Will they get it done? I don't know. Seems like Texas has made their stand and is not going to let go of another highly regarded recruit in the state. So expected, a little disappointing, but as you mentioned, Reagan, it's expected. And, we'll see as we get closer to December and all those type of deals, early signing period, and what really happens.
Yeah, and obviously what you really want to – well, I guess not want to, but what you really will be watching is this coming – well, not this coming – the next summer, summer of 2025 is what the MLB draft will look like for Jonah Williams as well.
Because guess what? Texas may never see him.
That's right. That's right. He could very easily sign and go pro in baseball. So that's something that whoever gets Jonah Williams, whether it's Texas or LSU or any team that ultimately signs him, because like you said, everybody will keep recruiting him. You're gonna have to be watching come next summer on what Jonah Williams does, because he's a big time baseball prospect, and so that recruiting process and getting him to play for you is not as easy as most. It's a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of pieces at play there. But yes, he's going to Texas, or he's committed to Texas. Recruitment's certainly not over with yet, so we'll keep an eye on that and see if things ever shift in favor for the Tigers, and we'll give you an update on that as well. And we'll give you more updates on anything LSU recruiting. Obviously, it may slow down a little bit. We'll be looking at, official visits and whatnot. Like obviously DJ Pickett is taking on a visit to Florida this coming weekend. But as of to his father's statement, DJ Pickett is still completely and wholly committed to the Tigers. Things like that are going to unfold throughout the season, official visits and whatnot. So we'll keep you updated on all things recruiting for LSU as well when more things come in. So, Zach, big segment here. Given our season predictions for the LSU football Tigers.
Yeah.
Season predictions for the LSU football Tigers. Zach, this is tough. This has got to be one of the toughest ones we've done. There's just so many question marks, so many unknowns. It's hard to really nail down a prediction. It's really hard.
Yeah, and this is something that I have been saying here for a while now. And I'll just I hate to reiterate myself, but for the point of this segment, I'll reiterate myself. We've been doing this podcast for upcoming 3 years now. And obviously, we as LSU fans, we have given our season predictions even before me and you started doing this podcast for a long time. And all the years that I've done this and given a season prediction or, try to decide what is going to be the win-loss, at the end of the year, it hasn't been, I think, as difficult as it was for me this year.
Yeah.
And now to be completely honest, I've been completely torn between 8-4 all the way up to potentially undefeated. Potentially undefeated. Yeah. And that's a large gap. A 4-game gap there, between 8-4 and undefeated. So I've had to try and land in the middle for, sake of not going a little too homer and for the sake of not being too negative. Yeah. I have tried to rein it in on both sides of that argument and try to meet a middle ground. So that perfect middle ground for me, Reagan, is 10-2.
Yeah.
It's 10-2. And I'll be honest with you, last year I was a lot more confident in who I picked as far as LSU losing 2 goes.
Right.
Last year I picked them losing 3 games. I picked them losing to Florida State. I picked them losing to Ole Miss, and I picked them losing to Alabama. And that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
This year, with my 2 losses that I'm going to give to you tonight, I'm not nearly as confident because, again, I feel like you could be as worse as 8-4, but you could also be as good as undefeated. And me and you have talked about it ad nauseum, on screen, off screen. Game 1 is huge for the potential of LSU season, right? You win game 1, you're talking about the potential of, an undefeated season if you can get past Ole Miss, in Baton Rouge after a bye week. That's going to be your most difficult game after USC, right? And there's going to be other landmines that you have to, sidestep along the way in the schedule. But as far as what are the biggest games on the calendar that pose you the most threat, and I believe it's these two games, Ole Miss and USC.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm picking LSU to lose those two games. I'm picking LSU to lose their opener and make it 5 years in a row that they have not won an opener. I picked them to lose to USC in the opener because there are so many question marks still on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, there is improvement. Yes, we can expect it to be a lot better.
Sure.
You still got to go on the field and you still got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's still going to take time for Blake Baker and this exact group of personnel with this team to start to gel and get and start to build that confidence back and start to build that team chemistry back and start to better understand the scheme. That takes time, right? So for that reason, you're going up against a really difficult offense, a Lincoln Riley offense. I understand it doesn't have Caleb Williams, but they've got really good guys the same way LSU does. It's going to be a high-scoring game, and we'll discuss the USC game more in depth on Thursday's show. But, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I just don't know if I fully have confidence in LSU's defense while it will be improved to, completely shut down this offense. And do I have enough confidence in this LSU offense with as new as it is? Yes, I'm confident in the offensive line. No Jaden Daniels, no Malik Neighbors, no Brian Thomas. Garrett Nussmeier has got to go out there and he's got to prove it. And he's got to have wide receivers that got to go out there and prove it themselves. Yep. So there's still, yes, we're confident and yes, we feel good about certain position groups. They still got to go out there and they still got to prove it. Yep. So that's why I'm picking LSU to lose game one against USC while they are continuing to get better and gel. And look, what happened the last 2 years? They lost game one, and that's exactly what they did. They got better. They gelled team chemistry. As the year progressed, they got better and better. We look at year one where they lost that first game to Florida State. Did anybody ever think LSU was going to beat Bama after losing game one to Florida State in Brian Kelly's first year? No. But they went out and they did it. They won the West. Game two, you lose to Florida State. Again, you have that major letdown. Did anybody think that LSU would, again, get back to 10 wins after losing and getting absolutely demoralized by Florida State last year? I don't think so. Yeah. So, it's going to take time this year as well. But I think LSU loses a very close one in Las Vegas to USC. And then I think they lose another extremely close, heartbreaking game to Ole Miss in Baton Rouge. There's a lot of other games that I could go to. I think about games like at A&M. I think about games like Alabama coming to LSU. I think about games like going to Florida. I think about games like going to Arkansas. I mean, there's a stretch there where you have 4 teams, and you've got Florida, A&M, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Those are going to be some really tough games, and 3 out of those 4 games, you're going on the road. So am I super confident that the 10-2 pick, that the losses are going to specifically come from the USC and Ole Miss? Not necessarily. You could beat USC, and then you slip up against Texas A&M on the road. You could beat Ole Miss and USC, but you slip up to Alabama at home, and you lose to Florida on the road. I mean, there's so many different routes, that you could go with this season. You could potentially look at a season where you're 8-4. You lose to Ole Miss at home. You lose to USC in the opener. You lose to Alabama at home. You lose to Texas A&M on the road. I mean, that's very likely a possibility. And with LSU this season, you're going to see a lot of really, really close point spreads like you did last year. The point spreads are going to be extremely close. And you're going to have a lot of games where you're biting your nails.
Yep.
I mean, we did it. We bit our nails against Florida State. We bit our nails against Alabama. We bit our nails against Ole Miss. We bit our nails. There's other games I can mention here, Reagan. Yep. But we bit our nails against Arkansas with even how bad they were last year. We bit our nails against them, had to win on a game-winning field goal. I mean, the list goes on and on. We had to bite our nails against Texas A&M until late in the fourth quarter. I mean, and they were at a situation where they had a bunch of guys that weren't playing. They had an interim coach. They had a third-string quarterback, and you were biting your nails against them. So, LSU, and that was with Jaden Daniels and with Malik Neighbors and with Brian Thomas.
Yeah.
And yes, the defense was god-awful, right?
Yeah.
But you have to consider, okay, we are losing what was the huge majority of our offense last year that gave us so much production and actually kept us in ball games and won us ball games
Yep.
because of a bad defense.
Yep.
But now you don't have that bad defense. You don't have that production offense, and you don't have as bad a defense. So it kind of equals out as far as when you're looking at a comparison between last year's team and this year's team. Elite, number one offense in the country, horrible defense. They balanced each other out, and that's why you had the result that you had in going 10-3 this past season. This year, offense production goes down a little bit, defense production goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're equally so. I think you're looking at a potential where it's again another similar year, and I hate it because you're like, when are we going to win more than 10 games? Can we get over the hump? And I just don't know if LSU is going to be able to do that this year, because of that situation where, if this was the same offense from last year and this year's defense, dude, I'm telling you, I would be going 11-1, undefeated. We're making a run at the college football playoff. That's not the case. That's not the case this year. Unfortunately, defense is a little bit better. The offense isn't going to be as good, so it equals itself out as far as a comparison to last year. I think you go 10-2. Where do those losses come from? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not confident in making those two losses, those two picks for those losses. They could cut. I mean, there's 6 games you could look at, and they could come from. There's literally 6 games. So like absolute worst case scenario, everything goes to crap. You could be a 6-6, football team. I don't think they're going to be a 6-6 football team. I think at worst they're an 8-4 football team. At best they're undefeated. But I'm just going to pick those losses coming to USC in the opener and at home against Ole Miss. And that sounds crazy because you got so many really difficult road games.
Yeah.
Obviously you face Bama at home. And I hope I look back on the season and I go, yeah, I probably should have made a little bit better pick there, at the beginning of the season. But, hopefully I'm looking back and going, man, I wish I would have picked them to go undefeated.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Zach, it's tough, man. It really is. I want to say LSU's going 10-2 as well. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to drop this game against USC. I think we're going to beat them. But I still think we're going to go 10-2. I think we're going to lose to Ole Miss. That's the one where I'm like, that's one we certainly can lose.
What's funny is we both think we're going to lose to Ole Miss, but we're both going to the game.
Right. I'm not saying we can't beat Ole Miss. That's why I think the USC game is so pertinent. If you beat USC and you're heading into Ole Miss 5-0, coming off a bye week, Ole Miss is playing the 7th straight game. That would be their 7th straight game. And their 7th straight game is in Death Valley.
Yeah, it's rough.
That is certainly a winnable game for LSU. But I still think it's going to be your toughest opponent by far. Here's why. The defense is not going to be elite. Can it be good? Sure. I don't think it'll be elite. I don't think it's going to be top 25. I think it could be top 75, top 50. I don't think it's going to be top 25. Lane Kiffin and that offense, I feel like, are going to be like blazing lightning, like scoring like crazy, like scoring like madmen. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be the best offense in the country.
Yeah, I believe it will be.
Makes me sick to say because I hate Ole Miss. But that makes me nervous against our defense. I don't know if our offense can keep up with that. Last year, our offense could. Our offense can't keep up with that this year, I don't think. There's got to be some other things happen for LSU to win the game. Obviously, the home field advantage helps. You got to get a few stops. And honestly, this offense, I think, can be a 34 to 30 points a game type of offense. I really think they can be that. And so when you get in the range of another team scoring 35 or more, I think it's getting dangerous for this offense. If they're putting up, if Ole Miss scores 45 points, LSU's not winning.
They're not winning. Yeah,
not winning. If Ole Miss scores 42 points, LSU's not winning. You got to hold Ole Miss to like 30.
30. Yeah, 30.
You hold Ole Miss to 30, that's a tight ball game. It's a tight ball game. So I think you lose to Ole Miss. It's so hard for me to pick the other loss. I really don't know where to fall. I literally don't know where to fall. What really worries me is I feel like Florida is the biggest trap game of the year. I think Florida is the biggest trap game of the year. Here's why. You got, number one, you got to go to Florida, but you go Ole Miss at home, Arkansas, at A&M, and then you go Bama at home. Florida's that last game in that long stretch, and it's at Gainesville.
Yeah,
that's the biggest trap game for me.
At that point, you really want to hope that everything has gone to crumbles at Florida.
Yeah, you hope you want to hope that Billy Napier's gone at that point, or it's like a foregone conclusion that he's gone and the season's gone to crap. That could not be the case, though. They could be a decent team. So if you go into Gainesville and they're like they're floating around 9-3 type of season, that's gonna be a tough game. That's gonna be a tough game. I don't know if they're gonna be floating around 9-3 though. That season is brutal. That schedule is brutal. You hope you're walking into that game and they're around 500 or less. That's what you're hoping for. And the stadium is demoralized. The swamp is not the swamp. Billy Napier is about to be chopped. That's what you're hoping for in that game.
Yeah,
if not, it's a trap game. If they've got a solid team and they've got a decent chance to win 8+ games, that's going to be a tough game. It really is. I'm going to say we lose to Ole Miss.
It's hard. It's really hard this season. I just don't know. I mean, I know why, because there's so much uncertainty. But
it would be so easy to pick Alabama if Nick Saban was there. I would say Ole Miss and Alabama.
I'm going to be honest, Reagan. I'm pretty confident in LSU beating Bama this year. I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident.
I'm not confident enough to say that LSU is going to go to 11-1, though. I'm not. But I don't know which other team to pick. I
think somewhere like a Texas A&M is a good landing spot.
I don't trust it, though. Mike Elko's a first-year coach with Connor Weigman.
Connor Weigman's pretty good.
I think he's a good quarterback. I think Garrett Nussmeier can.
I think he's a little bit better than a game manager.
A little bit, like
above average.
Sure,
he's an above average.
Garrett Nussmeier ultimately can be better than Connor Weigman because
I think they're comparable. I would say that they're pretty good.
Certainly, they're comparable. I think Garrett will be better, though. I do. I mean, he's had the whole offseason to prep. You saw in the bowl game, which obviously he had Brian Thomas and whatnot, but they didn't play the whole game, and he threw 395 and 3 touchdowns. I think he can be better than Connor Weigman. I don't know. A&M lost so much talent, and they've had to bring in a lot from the portal.
I mean, they still have Le'Veon Moss,
So
still have Connor Weidman.
yeah,
We'll see. But you did lose Jordan Gilbert. You did lose Walter Nolan. You know,
and Evan Stewart,
Evan Stewart.
he's gone. Moose Muhammad,
Yeah.
like all those good
The
receivers.
good receivers are gone. Yeah.
So I just don't trust them. I don't know if I can pick A&M to be that loss. I feel like we are a much more balanced and solid team than A&M is.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Elko's, I think, a solid coach. Maybe they can put it together. Maybe they can. I think they're going to be around 7-5 this year.
I'm confident. Let me go back to this. I'm confident in LSU beating Bama because I think obviously the game's in Baton Rouge. Jalen overrated Milroe does not have his Isaiah Bond. I don't even know who's the running back.
I don't know.
I don't know. Roto Williams is gone. Like, I don't know who the running back is, but
Probably something we should know.
probably somebody we should know, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. I know who Texas A&M's running back is, right? I know who Florida's running back is. I know who Ole Miss running back is. Like, I don't know who their running back is. So I know they got Kobe Prentice at wide receiver. I
get Alabama's playing,
But
Valley.
I also think LSU's offensive line is considerably better than Alabama's defensive line.
Well, do you think that A&M's defensive line is considerably better than LSU's offensive line? No.
No.
Well, that's why I the only thing that
But
they
it's
have
at
is
A&M.
at A&M. That's the only
It's at
thing.
A&M. What are you more scared of, at A&M or at Florida? At A&M, at Florida, or at Arkansas?
I
It's
think
not
more scared of
Arkansas.
at Arkansas.
You're more scared of at Arkansas?
We consistently play closer games against Arkansas. Consistently. And I went to Fayetteville 2 years ago when it was 10-13.
Yeah.
Or 13-3 or something like that. So
No, 10-13 I think was correct. I think you were correct. I think it was 10-13.
Like that's I mean, at their peak, obviously the Swamp and Kyle Field are better.
Yeah.
This year, I may be a little bit more afraid of Arkansas. That atmosphere. Again, that's why
They're replacing a better quarterback.
Zach. That's
You can't tell me Taylor Green's better than KJ Jefferson. He's not.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like this schedule is
Rakeem Boyd is gone. Or excuse me, not Rakeem Boyd. Rocket Sanders is gone.
Yeah, that's why I feel like this schedule is very favorable for LSU because you play at Arkansas, okay, but they're replacing their
best guys on offense.
Right, their best players on offense. You look at Texas A&M; it's a brand new coach, and they got a lot of new players. First-year coach, a lot of new players. You play Alabama in Death Valley, new coach, new players. Now you got Jalen Milroe, but how great is Jalen Milroe? I mean, is he really that good? I think he's okay. Well, I think he's better than okay, but I don't think he's like Heisman quarterback.
No,
but
he may prove us wrong this year. Knock on wood.
And then Florida, you just don't know. Like you just don't know. They weren't good last year.
I mean, Graham Mertz, I think, is a good quarterback. I think Graham Mertz is a pretty good quarterback.
But there was times last year where he was bad.
I mean, NCAA loves him. NCAA college football loves him because he literally won the Heisman my first year on Road to Glory. And apparently NCAA college football thinks Graham Mertz is the second coming of Christ because he's amazing. Literally my first year in Road to Glory, he won the Heisman. My first year in Dynasty, won the Heisman. I'm like, what the heck is this?
What is
It's Graham Mertz. He's not a Heisman.
man? And then Oklahoma, they have no Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
It's a favorable schedule, Zach. It really
It is a favorable schedule. It is a
It's
favorable
favorable
schedule.
schedule for LSU. It really
And
is.
it makes you feel more confident about, potentially getting over that hump of 9-3.
I think
but-
they're 10-2. I just don't know.
I would love to hear. We've got so many people here in our chat, or excuse me, in our live stream. So y'all come in, y'all comment. What do y'all think? Where do you think LSU lands? We're pretty torn this year, so we're looking at potentially a 10-2, worst case scenario 8. I mean, Reagan, let's do this real quick while our listeners, our viewers are hopefully coming in the chat and putting in their suggestions, their predictions. What is LSU's floor for you this year, and what's LSU's ceiling?
God. I think their ceiling is undefeated. I really do. I think their ceiling's undefeated. I think their floor. I mean, it's redundant. I feel like it's 8-4. It's redundant. I look at this schedule and I don't think LSU's losing more than 4. I just don't. It's a favorable schedule. I think at your worst, you're 8-4. If the offense isn't producing and the defense is only slightly improved, I think you're 8-4. But I feel like the makeup of this offense, it will produce. And this defense is going to be better. That's why I'm saying 10-2. I just don't know who to pick other than Ole Miss to beat us.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I think floor 8-4, ceiling undefeated. It really depends on how much your defense improves. How good is this offense without Jaden Daniels and the 2 elite wide receivers? So, but there's just so many. And I mean, this Sunday we're going to get some answers. This Sunday we're going to get some answers.
You know what, Zach? I mean, I hate to – I don't want to just – I'm not trying to just copy what you're doing, but I feel like 10-2 USC and Ole Miss is the safest bet because when you look at USC, like when I look at Alabama, I feel like LSU has an advantage. When I look at A&M, I feel like LSU has an advantage. When I look at Florida, I feel like LSU has an advantage. When I look at Texas A&M, I feel like LSU has an advantage. When I look at USC, I feel like it's about dead even.
Yeah, and here's why.
And it's a neutral site.
Here's why. Lincoln Riley and Lane Kiffin. They're both really good offensive play callers, right? And where are you the weakest? You're the weakest on defense. Where do you feel like your worst matchup is on the schedule? It's Ole Miss's offense versus LSU's defense. What other matchup on the schedule is as close to Ole Miss's offense versus LSU's defense? It's USC's offense versus LSU's defense.
It's USC, but USC doesn't have Jackson Dart. They don't have Juice Wells and Trey Harris and pre-scoring at tight end. They have Miller Moss, and I think he's going to be solid. I do. I think Woody Marks is going to be a solid running back. Zachariah Branch is going to be a real problem for LSU. So I'll take USC. I'll take USC to beat LSU, USC and Ole Miss, and I'll say they're 10-2. But I'm certainly more confident that LSU can beat USC more than Ole Miss. USC doesn't have what Ole Miss has, and I think I think Lane Kiffin's a better play caller than Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I would agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And yeah, it's just so difficult this year, Reagan. It's so difficult. And because you want
That's what makes this fun. It really does.
Yeah, but you also you want to pick LSU to beat USC so bad.
I
want to pick them so bad.
Here's what I want, Zach. I want, because this is what I can see maybe happening. Now you're going to lose some guys on defense, and that'll be tough. But I think LSU can have a similar season to 2018. I think LSU can open the season, beat USC like we did in 2018 against Miami, and be like, wow, that was great. That season, LSU went 10-2 with a big opening game win. I think LSU can do that this year. And then roll
2018, they went 9-3.
2018, we went. I thought we went. Oh well, because the Texas A&M.
You lost to Texas A&M in double overtime. Should have won.
Lost. You lost.
Yeah, I mean you are correct. They really were 10-2. You got robbed. You got 100%.
You were
completely 1,000%, 1,000,000% robbed in the 2018 LSU versus Texas A&M game. But you lost. You lost to Florida. You lost to Bama. You know,
A&M.
You lost A&M. You replace. Yeah, you replace Bama, the Bama loss with the Ole Miss. Lose to Ole Miss at home, like you lost to Bama at home. Lose to Florida on the road, like you lost to Florida on the road at in 2018, and lose to A&M on the road, like you did in 2018. But maybe you beat A&M.
Yeah, I think LSU 10. I just don't think we're losing A&M. I just don't.
We'll see.
I just don't.
It's going to depend. Let's see how impressive A&M.
USC, Zach. I'm saying we're 11-1.
Right.
If we go
11-1 with your only loss being Ole Miss, you're in the playoff without having to play the SEC championship.
I mean, you can be in the playoff 10-2 with a loss to USC and Ole Miss. I mean, it's borderline, but you can be.
Yeah.
You got wins over Bama. You got wins over Oklahoma, A&M, Florida. And your only losses are to USC and Ole Miss. You could get into that. You could get in.
It's going to depend on how good those other teams are, but
UCLA.
I think if LSU's 10-2, they're outside looking in. To be honest,
Could be.
I think they're outside looking in. If you're 11-1, you're in. And you know what is a good? You know what's good? What would be good for LSU is to go 11-1 and not have to play the SEC championship game.
It's true.
Because let's say the SEC championship game is comprised of Ole Miss undefeated, Georgia undefeated.
Well, that can't happen because Ole Miss and Georgia play each other.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, but you have two. You have two.
Or one.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you have like. If you have two undefeated SEC teams squaring up against in the SEC SEC championship, and LSU's only losses to Ole Miss and to USC, or excuse me, if your only losses to Ole Miss, and that's it, and you have two undefeated SEC teams going up against, I mean, and then whoever loses that game, you're talking about you're gonna have to choose between LSU and that loser of the SEC championship, and that's gonna be tough. But I would imagine that both those teams would get in. Both those teams would probably likely get in. Yeah. You know, obviously the automatic bid would go to the SEC champion, and then you're probably looking at both LSU and the loser of the SEC championship game getting in. So, and then if it's an SEC championship that's comprised of an undefeated team and a team with a one-loss team, well then if the one-loss team loses to the undefeated team, well then you're going to be in and ranked higher and a higher seed than the one-loss team that played in the SEC championship that had to play an extra game. Yeah. So like I'm kind of in the boat where I'm like I'm not really upset if you miss the SEC championship. And you're like 11. If you're 11-1 and you miss the SEC championship, I'm not really upset.
No. I'm not upset about that either. I'd be thrilled about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough, Zach. It's tough. I'll say USC and Ole Miss. I'll rock with you on that. That's tough, though. If we beat USC on Saturday, depending on how we beat USC on Sunday, if we go out there and like
Beat them by 2 touchdowns.
It's 38-17. I'm saying
I don't
we're
think it's
going
gonna be
11-1.
I'll take
And
38. I'll take 38-28 though. I would love to beat them.
Let's say 38-24.
Here's the thing: is USC's. We'll have to discuss this in the next podcast.
Yeah, we got to discuss it in the next game.
We're getting leaked into the next pot. Into the next
Yeah,
podcast.
we got to hold out for Thursday.
Yeah, and we're already about 20
We need to
minutes.
wrap this up. We got to wrap it up. All right, guys. Appreciate all of y'all being in here. We love talking about this, obviously. This season has a lot of, Zach, not just LSU, all of college football has question marks. There's a lot to be proved around college football. I think the only given is that, like, Georgia's going to be good because Carson Beck is back.
But are they going to be undefeated? Their schedule is awful.
It's a tough,
Brutal.
that is the only given to me. Oh, Ohio State, but then again, they got a new quarterback. It's Will Howard. Like, this season is going to be really fun. A lot of question marks to be had. It's not just LSU, and that's why it's like we got to see it. Like, this college football season is going to be really fun because the draft in terms of quarterbacks and players is kind of down this year.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be proven, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this all shakes out.
For sure.
So we'll see y'all all on Thursday to discuss the big game. We'll obviously give you our full preview of that. And Zach, we'll obviously discuss all of the crazy similarities between LSU and USC, how close they are in where they are, just where they are as teams. Pretty crazy. We'll discuss that, and we'll give our predictions for the game. Obviously, we just picked them here to lose, so I guess we'll give our scores on that. So, anyways, but we'll see you next time here in the Tigers Avenue. Appreciate all of you. 5-star Hero, take us out. Peace.
Who that 5-star? Who that 5-star? And the LSU Tigers, LSU Tigers.